Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
Okay. With a medium attack or?
No, usually I compress them with fast attack to get rid of some snare drum.
Right.
Usually a broadband compressor, and then I usually use a phase linear multiband compressor on the overheads, just to sort of shave off the highs, which would only be hi-hat, because hi-hat has more shimmer than the cymbals, to get them more even, and also to be able to get my cymbals, even though I spend a lot of time, well, not on my own productions perhaps that much, but especially if I do external mixing, I usually have to do that quite a lot.
And your gates on your kick and snare, you usually gating completely?
No.
I
hardly gate them at all.
Oh, really? Okay.
I gate them if I think there's a need for it.
Right.
But I'm a big lover of ghost notes. So if there are ghost notes,
Right.
you know, they should be heard. And I think that there's I like the length. Like I said, I don't like to record with moon gels.
No. Keep the sustains.
Yeah, and by using, if I need to sculpt the attack, not for bleed. Bleed doesn't, but I can work around bleed. But for if I need to shape the attack, I can use a gate for that.
Right.
With a range of like 3-4 dBs perhaps only.
Sure.
And sometimes the kick drum is if there's low end there that sort of bothers me in between. If I need to make the kick drum a little shorter, then I can use an expander or a gate for that.
Got you.
But no, I'm definitely. I guess it's since I implement some samples, even though I sort of take a little bit of pride in trying to make that sound organic.
Sure.
I don't think bleed is a problem for me. So it just gets too lifeless with adding gates and samples.
Got you. Do you tend to, processing order, compress then EQ, or EQ then compress?
That's a good question. Usually when it comes to drums, I compress before EQing, because I don't want the compressor to move. And it's also about these old tricks, you can compress away low end and low mids.
Yeah.
Not only because it will react more to them, but it also will distort more.
Sure.
In the low end. And like a vocal compressor, if you put the vocal microphone straight into an LA2, or if you put an EQ in between that sort of adds highs and removes some low and removes some low mids, the LA2 will sound different, not as magical.
EQ wise, do you tend to EQ on the individual tracks or on the sum on the guitars?
Both. Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I try to. Hopefully, I will get it right on the individual channels.
Right.
But I might end up, putting everything together. It's like my rhythm guitar package needs a little bit more highs or whatever. Then I would do that on.
Do you mix with a compressor over the master bus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Early on.
How many reverbs do you generally, like, say for example Ghost Reveries, how many different reverbs mostly across the whole of the mix would you generally use?
Not many.
No.
I'm one of those guys who, I know some people would use their drum reverbs and their vocal reverbs. I usually have like 2, and then I use those.
Okay.
But I'm not a heavy user of reverbs. So I tend to use more delays.
Last couple of questions on mastering. Do you always go to multi-band compression, or will you sometimes use broadband compression?
Yeah, I rarely use multi-band compression.
Okay.
It's like a DUI thing. You would hardly see a multi-band compressor with a serious mastering engineer. People tend to think that, or you can see the compressor, but they will run cold. It's very few of the big names in mastering that uses multi-band compressors.
Interesting.
Whatever the mix needs. If it needs something, then I would put a multi-band compressor there.
Right.
But then it's usually a matter of rescue operation.
Right. Okay.
So it's not a standard thing, because it's the trick with mastering is it's really hard. I mean, it's usually not even recommended being mixing and mastering, because it's two completely different approaches. And
Yeah.
I've had to learn that as well.
Yeah.
I started out doing mastering because I was so frustrated with my mixes
results,
getting destroyed.
Yeah.
So I sort of researched and learned the craft, and got better results myself, I thought.
Yeah.
And over time, I probably caught up to that as well. I'm not sure if that was the case in the beginning, but
Do you tend to use compression doing most of the gain reduction, or the limiter doing a lot of gain reduction?
I hardly limit when
Hardly
doing
limit,
mastering.
yeah. Okay.
I hardly limit, and I hardly use multiband compressors.
Right.
That's two of the sort of standard things that people tend to overuse when it comes to mastering.
Right.
But I do use whatever I need to. I mean, if the track is sounding nice, then it would pass here without any compression at all.
Yeah.
If it needs some compression, it will get it.
Sure.
But it can really suck the life and punch out of
Yeah.
a mix if you sort of do that. But for volume, I use clipping instead. I use 80 clipping, and I use possibly some digital clipping.
Right.
It's sort of the secret for getting a good volume without destroying the transients. You go out analog, and then you hit a premium 80 converter hard as fuck on the return.
Right.
And then you will get your transients intact. And if you go too loud, it will distort, and then you find a level where it doesn't distort.
Wow.
And you will get much louder and much less impact on the sound than any limiter would ever be able to do. But
And do you tend to EQ before compression when mastering, or after?
yeah, usually.
Right.
Yeah.
Before compression.
Yeah.
And afterwards as well sometimes, or?
It depends on how it sounds. I mean, I guess if I need to add some low end to the mixes, then I would probably compress before.
Yeah.
Possibly. But that's usually not the case. Usually it's completely opposite. So.
Jens Bogren, thank you very much for your time. That
No
was
problem,
absolutely
man.
fantastic.
It's a pleasure.